Hello everybody, welcome back. So this time I'm going to be doing a second project for the Little Dresses for Africa organization, but this time it's going to be for the little boys. And they have a downloadable instruction sheet on their website that is this one that says Britches for Boys. So we are making britches for boys today. And basically you're going to take a like new t-shirt, an adult size t-shirt, and crop those down into britches. So there's a couple things. First of all, on their instruction sheet they have what the sizes of t-shirts, how that relates to the sizes of shorts is going to be. I'm using t-shirts that were intended for my husband, so they are all in the large size, which means they are going to be for the I think it's like size 12 to 14, but if you have like small adult t-shirts that are not being used and they are in good condition, this would be a great project to use those. Those make the little boys, and then, you know, the bigger the t-shirt, the bigger the shorts. So just letting you know that. The other thing is that the elastic that they call for is one that I could not find locally. Well, I can't find anything locally. But I ordered it online. I think I got mine on Walmart, and it's this that is called drawstring elastic. And I'll put a link in the description of where I bought mine. I bought what I thought was 5 yards, and I think I ended up with like 40. So that turned out to be a great deal. So I have enough to make a lot of drawstring shorts. So let me go ahead, turn the camera down. Later on, I am going to repeat what I said earlier in the Little Dresses video about the organization to let you get to know more about what their mission is and everything. But first of all, let's just get started cutting apart these t-shirts. Okay, so first of all, yes, there are going to be logos on my t-shirt. Just ignore that. You know, they're not sponsoring this video or anything like that, but they have a nice little t-shirt. So what we're basically doing is first laying your t-shirt out nice and flat on your table here, okay? And I'm going to have to raise you up higher, I can see that. But what we're going to do is, while it's laid nice and flat, and you probably can't see because it's black on black, but right where the seam line is here, I'm going to be cutting that. And now that I look at this, I'm thinking I'm going to change to a different t-shirt just so that it's going to be easier to see on camera. I will make shorts out of this one later. Okay, I think gray will be able to see better. Now, as I'm feeling it here, I can tell that the back arm seam is in farther than the front. So like right here is the front one, the back one is right here. So just to make sure that, you know, I get it nice and even the first time, I'm going to actually flip it over to the back. Okay, yes, I do spend time near Toledo Bend, Louisiana, but they are not sponsoring this show. Okay, so I'm going to get my scissors. It says rotary cutter. I'm going to use scissors just so I can see very clearly. Before I do, I'm going to kind of draw that line in with my little chalk here, because I have a feeling once I pick up my scissors and start cutting, it's going to want to get a bit out of sorts. But this way I can see where I need to make that cut. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so there is one sleeve. And just to make sure I'm getting them exactly the same, I'm going to place this sleeve over this one here. Okay, like that. And go ahead and cut this one out. Okay, step one. Now I need to flip it back over so I'm looking at the right side here for the next step, because the front of the t-shirt is going to be lower than the back neckline. Move those out of the way. What I need to do is, actually I have skipped a step. I need to go down to the bottom here. And in the instructions, what it says is determine the short's length. cut off 3 to 6 inches from the bottom of the t-shirt, depending on the short's length. Well, this is a pretty long t-shirt, okay? So if this is the crotch up here, that's the length of the legs, and that's going to be very long. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off the full 6 inches on the bottom. I think if you're starting off with a shorter t-shirt, then maybe go shorter, but you need to cut off, the minimum is 3 inches, okay? But you need to cut it off because you're going to be using this piece later on, okay? So there's my little line. Come back in here. And we cut straight across. Okay, step 2, done. Put this up ahead. And then I'm coming back up here to the top. So again, here is my neckline. And I'm going to try to line this up so that at the very top, my shoulders are about the same length, so I have this pretty square according to my grid in the background, okay? I'm going to put my ruler straight across here, so it's laying just at the very bottom of that neckline. Draw my cutting line right there. I don't know if you can see that, but trust me, it's a very faint little pink chalk line, okay? So let me get you back up here out of the way. Come in. I'm going to cut straight across. Okay, and take that out of the way over here. All right, now these are going to be my 2 pants legs, but I need to cut them open because this is going to be like the crotch and these are going to be the inseam. So it should be the next step, yes. Coming over here, and what I do on this side, I'll do on the other also, is put my scissors in the middle here and cut them straight apart on that outside edge. Okay, so there's one side. Flip it over here. Okay, all right, so now I have 2 pant legs. All right, so if I'm just, laying these together, honestly, they're going to be kind of cute with that logo on there, just saying. Okay, with that one here and this one over here, we're going to get kind of an idea of the finished size of these little shorts. And those are going to be really good. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay. Okay, so raising you up. At this point, you need to decide how you're sewing it. If you have a sewing machine that allows you to use a double needle, this would be a great project for that. If you can put a stretch needle, a ballpoint needle or stretch needle into your sewing machine and use that on this type of fabric, that would be a great option. Another thing is there is some thread, and I'm going to use mine that has some stretch built into it. Let me go grab it. I'm going to do that so that even if I'm using just a regular machine with a regular straight stitch, it is going to have some stretch built into it. In case you've never seen it before, these are mine, and in the 𝐥𝐢𝐤𝐞 catalog, because not sponsored but love them, this is what it looks like. It's their Gutermann Maraflex. So that's what I'm going to be using. It's not necessary, but make sure that you're using a thread that's not going to break as soon as it gets a little bit of pressure, okay? So with all of that being said, what I am going to be doing is with my Maraflex thread in my bobbin and my needle, I'm going to be running a row of straight stitching and then coming back and serging the 2 edges together, okay? And the first thing is to put some pins over here get my two legs and I am folding them right sides together. So my logos are in here on the inside, okay? And putting my inseams right sides together, getting those pinned. I am going to stitch them at about, I don't think that this says a specific seam allowance, just, oh wait, I am wrong, a quarter inch seam allowance, so a fairly small one. So I'm going to be making a straight stitch at a 1/4 inch and then come back and serge the edges. If you have a 4 or 5 thread serger and you just want to use that, that's fabulous. I only have 3 threads on my serger, so that's why I'm doing a row of straight stitching first. So all of that, you know, go ahead and get it pinned, sew it together, and I will meet you back here. Okay, so even though I used my black thread to sew it, I left my white thread on my serger to serge it just so you could see it. I'll change it to black thread for my next pair because it'll blend better, but for this I thought the camera would be better with white. So you can see there's my regular stitch with my, you know, Gutermann thread and this overcast one. So even if I pull it, it's not going to snap on me, which is good. So now I need to take one of my pant legs and turn it right side out, okay? And leaving this one wrong side out, I'm just going to open it up like this, okay? So this one you can tell, the right side is on the inside. Now I'm going to slip the one that is right side out inside the one that is wrong side out. And I need to start out by matching this little crotch seam right here. Okay, so I'm pinning it so that these two are right sides together. And matching up right there, okay? And then coming up to the very top here, matching these top corners. Shake it out a little bit and pin it again about halfway. Use more pins if you want to. There is no shame in overpinning. I do it all the time, especially on a knit that doesn't want to behave, okay? Then coming over here, and I'm going to do the same thing. Find my two top corners. There it is. Matching this up here. Like that. Okay, shake it out. And match up the very middle. And maybe another one in the crotch just for fun. All right, so I'm going to be sewing this one slightly different in that I'm still going to use about a 1/4 inch seam allowance, maybe a little more, maybe closer to 3/8 of an inch. And the reason is we're going to be sewing it twice. So I'm going to sew it all the way and then come back and follow that stitch line and do it a second time. So there's 2 rows of stitching right on top of each other. Okay, once I have those 2 rows of straight stitching in, then I'm going to come back and serge the edge just like this. Okay, so I'm over here using Rosie again today. She is just a straight stitch machine. She does not even have reverse, but this is just to prove you don't need anything fancy. Yes, she's tough, but she's not fancy. So I wanted to show you what I mean about stitching that same stitch twice. Let me get you in a little closer. So first of all, if you're sewing on a flatbed machine like I am, not a free arm machine, I'm actually starting on the back. So here's my little pinned thing. I'm going to open this up and start back here on the back. Lift up my presser foot, and again, I'm aiming for closer to 3/8 of an inch here. So take a few stitches, bring it forward. Okay, do it again. And these curves are going to want to curl up. Just kind of take your time and hold them together as you go. And even though you're sewing on a knit, you don't have to stretch it as you sew it. Just, you know, make sure that it's laying there flat. Because of the style and everything of this project, it's not really necessary to build a lot of stretch into it at this seam. Okay. Now here I'm throwing one seam allowance this way and the other one that way, you know, opposite sides, just so that they're going to lay flat. So as I get closer to it, I hope you can see, instead of trying to curve and stretch everything, I am just kind of moving my fabric so it's always laying somewhat flat right in front of that presser foot. Okay. And almost up here to this side, again, just uncurling it as I go. And a little bit more. Just got a little fast start there. If you feel really confident, yes, you can go super fast. That's fine. It's not a race though, you know. Okay, got that locked in. So then I can go ahead and pull this out, clip the thread, and start over. So this time I am just following my previous stitching line. I know you can't see well, but if I turn this light on, it gets even worse sometimes. So just following that seam line all the way around. Okay, and if you are not 100% right on top of the other line, that's not a big deal at all. I think I got off a little bit. You know, it's not right on top, it's kind of like right next to it in places. That's good, it's just close enough. So now I'm going to go ahead and just serge over the edge. I'm not really cutting anything off at this point, I'm just kind of overcasting the edge. Okay, so back here at my table, I'm going to go ahead and open up the shorts. So I guess they're inside out at this point, okay? Now what they say is at this point they want you to quarter mark it. So I'm lining up my front and back seam here, smoothing out the sides, and where the side seam is going to be, I'm just going to put a little clip over here, or a needle, or a mark, or a pin, or however you want to mark yours. That is fine. I'm going to put another one over here. Okay, so that every fourth, every quarter is marked at this point. Move that down a bit. Okay. Okay, so we are down, whoopsie, down here in the instruction sheet. So what I need to do is move this aside, and this is that bottom piece that got cut off. They say it needs to be 2 1/4 inches wide. Okay, so I'm lining this up here. And now is the point I'm going to grab a rotary cutter. Here we go. Move this stuff out of the way and just cut that so I have this little strip here, 2 1/4 inches wide. So here is that strip. Okay, it's one big circle at this point. Now what I need to do is put my pants, my breeches waistband here. And I'm lining both of them up, starting at the same place. Opening it all up so it's smooth as possible. Well, the little curves are a bit out of sorts here. Just ignore that. It's just skewed a little bit, but that's actually making it lay flatter. If I put pins instead of the clips, it would be exact. Okay, so what I'm looking at is I'm going to need this finished waistband to fit on here exactly. So if this is starting here and ending here, then I need to add a 1/2 inch for seam allowance because we're using 1/4 inch seam allowances, okay? But if I lay this right here, I can see that's about a 1/4 inch. My ruler here, right here. So if I extend it a 1/4 inch and it's 2 layers thick, that's my 1/2 inch, if that makes any sense, okay? And again, this is knit, so it doesn't have to be like letter perfect because one or the other will stretch a bit. Okay, so I have it marked there, and now I'm going to go ahead and cut it at that position. Okay, so if you come in here, hopefully you can see if I have this laying down, give or take, that's about a 1/4 inch longer than this piece is, okay? So now flipping our instructions over, we're going to need to sew the waistband together. Okay, so while I have it right here and it's still perfectly laying down together, I'm going to go ahead and pin those two edges and stitch it at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm not going to serge this, just stitch it right there straight across. Okay, so you're going to want to press your seam allowances open there. I did very lightly. I need to turn this so that it is right side out. Give me just 1 second here. These are so cute. Oh my goodness. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and match up my waistband to my shorts right sides together. And they are saying to put the seam on one of the side positions. So I'm just going to come over here where this clip is and match that up with my little side seam here and pin it together. Okay. And I am very hopeful that this is just going to match up perfectly. And again, like I said, it is a stretch knit, so if it doesn't, give it a slight tug and it will, you know. Okay, if I had put quarter marks on my waistband ahead of time, I could just match that up easily. But I did not. So there's the front piece. Here is what I'm going to call my back. Honestly, the front and the back are the same shaped pattern piece, so it doesn't really matter which is which. It'll be up to the person who ends up with this. Okay, so here I am, the last one. Just kind of shake it out, move it up, and there we go. Okay, so now, while it is right side out like this, I need to sew at a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around the entire top. Okay, so this is what it looks like right now, and I need to go back and press, cut off this little tail, press the seam allowance up towards the waistband all the way around. But while my iron is warming up, I am using their drawstring elastic here. Okay, but they say if you aren't using that elastic at this point, go ahead and on the inside, turn it down, you know, make it a nice little clean finish to feed regular elastic through, or a drawstring cord, or whatever. They say to use stitch in the ditch to seam it. They just want to make sure this is really durable. What we don't want is, you know, very light little whip stitches with a very breakable thread at this point, because these are going to be abused, you know, pulled on and off, washed very hard and everything, and we want them to last. So when they say stitch in the ditch to hold your casing down, they make it very, very strong, okay? But we're not doing that. We're going to be using their corded elastic. So again, I'm going to be pressing these seam allowances up. And then I'm going to get my drawstring cord, and I need to cut the piece 4 to 6 inches smaller than the waistline measurement of the shorts. Okay, so I'm just going to lay these here, and I can kind of see where they are on my little grid behind it. So if I want, it says 4 to 6 inches shorter. We're going to say 2.5 inches is 4 to 6 inches shorter. So if this is here, that's 1, 2, and this is 2.5 inches shorter. So if I lay this here to this edge and double it, okay, that's going to give me the place to cut my elastic. So I'm going to do that right there. Okay, now that we've cut it 4 to 6 inches smaller, join the seams with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, okay? So these two are going to be sewn together. Just ignore that little piece of drawstring cord out there. We're ignoring it. I need to sew this piece of elastic together, again, at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I'm pinning both sides because it's fat in the middle. It's going to want to roll straight across here, and I'm going to push that open. Okay, so this is pressed, This is sewn. I've pressed it open. In the instructions they say you can stitch down your two sides if desired. At this point I'm not going to, and I'm going to figure out what the ramifications are of that. So what I need to do at this point though is do the quarter mark thing. So I'm just going to lay this flat here and put a pin up here at the opposite side, open it up so that that pin matches up with my little seam, and put a little pin over here and over here. Okay, like that. So it's marked every quarter. Just like this picture down here, all right? Now meet the right side of the elastic to the right side of the garment. And I'm assuming the right side of the elastic is the side where we do not see a seam allowance, okay? And position the center back, position the elastic seam at center back of the waistline. So I am assuming that this one with the little logo here this is the front, I'm assuming. So if I flip this over, and you know what, I am going to make sure that my little backs are matched up here first. And I'm going to stick little pins where my quarter position is up here and over here. Well, I have the seam line right there, so that makes it easy on this side. I can just get my pin to stick in. All right, so this is my center back, putting the right side, which is this, right here up against the very top edge of my fabric, okay? And that's not giving me a whole lot of room down below, but that's okay. Let me go ahead and get that. I'm just going to clip it on at the quarter marks first. Actually, I'm going to have to pull this through. Should have thought that through a little bit better. All right. So then I'm going to take my quarter mark here on my waistband, match it up to the quarter mark here, and just stick one pin through. Do the same thing in the back. Take my, or in the front I should say, take my quarter mark of my elastic, pin it to the edge up here of my waistband in the center front, and come over here and match up the quarter marks over on this side. Again, the seam allowance should still be open flat. Okay, I'm going to pin it sideways so it holds those open flat. Okay, now we're going to have to stretch the elastic as we sew it on for this next step. It says stitch or serge the upper edge of the elastic to the cut edge of the waistband, removing pins as you come to them and stretching the elastic to fit. If you're serging, be careful not to trim the elastic. Here's what I'm going to do, what I recommend for me. I am not sewing this on with a serger. I'm sewing it on with my regular straight stitch sewing machine first, okay? Because if I screw something up, it's a whole lot easier to fix it on a regular sewing machine. And on a serger, it's very easy to catch some of this and cut off part of the elastic, and you don't want to cut off any of your elastic, okay? So before I go over to my regular sewing machine, I'm going to pull everything so it's nice and tight, and maybe put a little straight pin halfway, you know, just to make it a little bit easier when I'm over there, and then go ahead and do the whole thing. Like I said, I am on a flatbed machine where I open it up, and I'm going to start sewing on the bottom first and then working my way all the way around at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, so as I'm sewing it on, I've got my needle down right here, and I'm going to pull it until my knit is laying flat. It actually would be nicer if I did this so I was looking at the other side, but that's okay. Then I need to not just pull forward, but guide it kind of at the same amount of tension to the back. Because if I just keep pulling this forward, I'm going to end up bunching up here, okay? And I'm trying to sew it so that I have just maybe a 1/4 inch seam allowance, you know, give or take. It's honestly, because I'm stretching it, kind of going back and forth between an 1/8 and a 1/4. That's okay. That is okay. Okay, so come up to the next spot. Make sure my needle is down before I pull out pins and start stretching. Make sure this little seam allowance is going to lay flat. Get everything positioned right. Okay. Trying to hold that open. Well, it wanted to curl closed a little bit. That's that little knit seam allowance. Not a huge deal. Okay. So as I'm sewing it, it's kind of, if you can see, gathering it up a bit, but it's got that stretch built into it. Okay. So I'm just going to keep on going. My needle is down. I'm stretching this out, finding a point about halfway, holding it here, and going. It's not a race, but it's not going to take that long, you know, once you're on the path. And having it pinned at that 1/4 increment is going to keep it so that it's an equal amount of stretch all the way around. Okay? Okay, so the next step, this is, you know, we've just sewn this on, looking at it on the inside. All right, I'm going to be turning it over and folding it to the inside here. All right, so that you're going to have a little bit of fabric showing at the top, and it's going to look like this at the bottom. So what we need to do now is secure this bottom edge. Now, in the instructions, what they're going to tell you is you have a choice of either zigzagging it down, you know, coming along here and zigzagging it down, or if you straight stitch it, to stitch it in the ditch, okay? And because I'm using a straight stitch machine right now, I'm going to do option B, stitching in the ditch. But the first thing I want to do is turn it at each 1/4 position down and pin the bottom so that it is going beyond where that stitching line is. So this is my little seam allowance. This is my stitching line right here. I want my elastic to go just beyond it, okay? And I'm going to stick a pin in there. Actually, I'm going to probably put a few pins all the way around. So here it is at the other 1/4 position. Okay, pinning it down so it's just beyond that seam line. And pinning it beyond the seam line is important because if we come back to stitch in this stitch, we want to make sure that we catch that elastic. If I stretch this elastic, I can see that it's still covering up that seam line, so that's a good thing. All right, let me go ahead and get it pinned all the way around. Okay, welcome to the next day. My battery ran out on my camera, both batteries, and I could not get them charged. I think I need to buy new batteries. But when we last were together, I was trying to stitch in the ditch along here. As you can see, I got slightly off in some points. I don't think anyone is going to notice a 32nd of an inch off or anything. But on the inside, okay, my stitching goes over the elastic here. And you have to stretch it as you sew it. And it wasn't the easiest thing in the world. You could do it, but you had to like be constantly feeling under the fabric for where that edge of the elastic was to make sure you're catching it. I think that if you don't feel up to the challenge of straight stitching in the ditch, their option of doing a zigzag around it might be easier, because with the zigzag going back and forth, you don't have to be as exact precise on where the edge of your elastic is. So that being said, instead of skipping down to hemming the pants, I want to play with this drawstring. So what this stuff is it has a drawstring inside. So I'm center front here, and I'm just going to stick this little knitting needle in there and try to pull it out. Okay, now this drawstring is going to stretch, and so that's the bonus, fun part of it. So it's going to come out like this. And I'm pulling it so that it's exactly in half up here. And in their illustration, they show you cutting it and then tying a knot at each end. And I hear thunder outside. I wonder if it's going to storm. Crazy weather. Anyway, there we go. I've got my little knots. So, because this is going to want to unravel, I'm just going to trim the ends a little bit closer to those knots. I could singe it so that it would seal it in. I'm just wondering how hard that's going to make it, you know, because when you singe something, and actually I'm not going to, but when you burn something to singe it, to seal it together, it makes it a little stiff, and I wouldn't want these stuck inside my shorts and stiff. So I think that the little knot is going to be good enough. Just pulling these little threads out that are going to want to pull out and trim that so it's nice and even. Okay, so now I have the elastic, but I also have the drawstring. And that's the cool thing about this kind of elastic with the drawstring inside of it. Okay, so the last thing is hemming your shorts, and it just says hem using your favorite method. Well, that's pretty open-ended there. So I think what I am going to do is I could serge around the edge and just turn it up and give it a single stitch. If I had a double needle and I did that, then I could do a double stitch. And the good thing about using a double needle is it stretches. Because the bobbin thread goes back and forth underneath. You have two top threads, but one bottom thread, and it goes back and forth and builds in some stretch. So that could be good. Just for simplicity, I'm going to go ahead and just serge around the bottom of each one of these pant legs. It honestly doesn't need it because it's not going to unravel. So let me take that idea back. You are witnessing my mind in action. Instead, I'm just going to make a little hem. I'm going to turn it up about 3/8 of an inch and turn it up again about 1/2 of an inch. And then stitch it along that edge. That's what I'm going to do. It'll be nice and neat on the inside. And it should hold up well. It should hold up well. And this shouldn't have a whole lot of stretch on it. But because I am using that Gütermann stretch thread, you know, it's not really stretchy, but it has enough give that it will work. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Again, turning it up about 3/8 of an inch, turn it up again a little more than 1/2 an inch, and stitching along the top edge. Okay, so it is done. Here's my little hemmed bottoms there. You know, if they get pulled a little bit, nothing's going to pop. So I think that is great. And what I'm going to be doing for my own part of this project is, while my camera batteries were recharging last night, I went ahead and I cut out 7 more of these sets. And I can tell you, the more you cut out, the faster you get at cutting them out. By the time I was done, I was taking the entire t-shirt, folding it in half, cutting out both arms at the same time, and while it was folded in half, cut off that top part up here, coming down, cutting off the bottom, cutting off my 2 1/4 inch strip, and setting it aside. And I literally would have these cut apart and ready to sew in less than a minute. It was crazy. So this takes no amount of time. I would recommend you don't use stained t-shirts with holes. It's really important that they look new when they arrive, okay? That's for, you know, niceness, but also legality reasons. It's important. So I would say, I don't remember if it specifically says on the website, but for their little dresses, they say it costs about $2 to get their item transported and distributed in the field to the child. And so if you can put a donation in, like say I'm going to put in 8 pairs of shorts, if I just do these when I send my package, if I put in at least $16 with it and a check or something to Little Dresses for Africa, then that'll help cover the cost of actually getting these over to the child, you know. anything you can do is always good. So I think that they're great. Honestly, I love this idea, you know. Do it for your kids, do it for your grandkids. But if you don't have someone like that that you want to sew for, please do it for the children, you know. And so I can get these folded up. And it's ready to go. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you're going to make these, let me know. Let me know. I'd love to see everyone that puts them together. I'm going to put up the address and the website and the link for the pattern itself in the description here, so take a look for that. And enjoy! Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!
Come drown your fears in my river of tears. But these tears are not born of pain. It's just I cry when I speak your name. 'Cause I am alive, alive in all I have seen. You are the truth, majesty, you're my queen.
Oh,
So
look
let's
at
build
you!
our bridges together with love that
Wow! Look at these beauties!
so I'm
Oh,
far
yeah.
away.
Oh,
My
yeah.
spirit remains
Okay.
inside of you. I keep on telling your story, keep giving God all the glory, 'cause all that he sends down, I'll send down too. Down deep in my bones, it is written in stone, where beauty and honor reign. It's more than I dreamed I'd gain, and we are alive, alive and breaking free. I'll sing you to sleep, your precious heart I'll keep ever closer to me. So let's build our bridges together with love that will live on forever. Though I'm far away, my spirit remains inside of you. I keep on telling your story, keep giving God all the glory, 'cause all that he sends down, I'll send down too. A stirring voice that touches me, a chance for rediscovery. Trust that grows unwavering, a strength that only you can bring. So let's build some bridges together with love that will live on ever. Though I'm far away, my spirit remains inside of you. And I keep on telling your story, keep giving God all the glory, 'cause all that he sends down, I'll send today.